do that now. You don't have to wait. And it happens instantaneously. It's not like it's a process. I can remember Nisargadatta Maharaj talking about earnestness, that you have to be earnest about finding this truth. And Gangaji talked about vigilance in a lot of her tapes. But for me, it seems it was just a lot easier than that, in that when the willingness arose, it wasn't like there was a me who was willing. It's just like this willingness to know the truth. And even it carried over with the doctors, like they're afraid to tell you the truth. And I was saying, just tell me what you think the truth is, I mean, this one young doctor I had was pretty, he was a real gentle guy, and he was really not wanting to tell me how bad it was. And I was saying, just tell me, I'm willing to know the truth. I think it's a real criteria, whether it's good or, whether it's favorable or not to what I consider myself to be, i.e. in this context, this body, Finally, it becomes really apparent. It's not like one's divorcing oneself from the body, but one just sees that the body is not who I am, that it's an expression of who I am. Even if, as an interim belief system, when I believe that I'm the body-mind complex, that's who I am, and that I'm limited right here at the skin, and everything else out here isn't me, then I'm put in a position of defending this that I believe that I am. And sometimes, when people are abused or punished or hurt, that's beaten home so strongly that it's really hard to transcend that. But it is possible to look and see that that's not the whole truth of who you are. That would be an interim way of looking at it, and that when you have that belief, then everything seems to take on there's a dichotomy that's being served, that everything is a matter of life and death, because we're identified with the body, we don't want it to die. And anything that even roughly, assaults the egoic identity is taken to be a survival threat. Actually this, it could be argued this whole thing evolved, as a survival mechanism. But when that belief is dropped, and one discovers that who one is just prior to all that stuff, and even if you if you changed your identity saying who I am is life, then you realize that life isn't threatened here so much. I mean, people think it is with all the pollution and everything, but you see life and death as just events, birth and death as events in the context of life. That would be an interim belief. But finally, you realize that you're not even life, you're that which makes life possible. You always just go a half a step deeper until finally there's just nothing to say about yourself, and then you can just be who you are, not needing to define yourself. In other words, define means to, put limits. It's actually a limiting process when you define yourself. Basically the statement of definition would be, I'm this and not that. It's the engineering background coming through. Anyway, but, So I just keep saying the same things over and over and over and over. I remember Nisargadatta, one of his talks, someone got up and they were very angry. He says, you just keep saying the same thing over and over and over and over again. Are we children to be fed on words? And Nisargadatta, who didn't mince words, he says, as long as you believe words are important, you're children. As long as you, do that, you're children. The guy said, he saw it, and he says, well, then go ahead and feed me, you know. And it's just like when he said when you're raising children, you don't tell them don't once, or you don't tell them things once, you have to do it over and over again. So that's why I kept going to satsang, to be told over and over and over and over ad nauseum that who I am is not, that I'm not what I take myself to be. I'm not what I was taught that I am. And if that, you know, and if that's true, if that is accepted, then now, due to a natural curiosity, I want to know who I am. And then that's the beginning of, arguably it's the beginning of wisdom. And, you know, to basically say that I don't know who I am, let me look. Let me look. Let me see if I can find myself. You say the admission of ignorance is the beginning of wisdom. So. Any questions? No? Okay. This is always the awkward part of the satsang. I'll just say, okay, I guess I'll figure out another angle, another way of saying it, because I'm really a one-trick pony, you know. It's this is what works for me. It works for me, and I'm just too. You know, I'm very happy, and I can remember when I was young, I was very unhappy. And, it's like I'd be looking for happiness, say, like in a relationship, not realizing that the only way any relationship is really going to work is if I bring my happiness to it and share it. And then if two people happen to do that, then it's a whole different ballgame, because then instead of a relationship that's something I need for my survival, it's a magical, synergetic thing where two happy people can be together and then point the relationship into the world to do service.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot nicer. Yeah. Okay.
Do you use mantras a lot?
There's two mantras I love, which one is Om, and if it's pronounced correctly, it's you know, A-U-M, and it vibrates your heart, by the way, if it's pronounced correctly. And and I've got kind of a messed up lung, but if you do it, you know, if we do it together, the whole room can just hum in resonance to the heart. It's just like it just breaks everything up. And another mantra that I really love is the Gayatri mantra. I was just telling you earlier about, you know, I heard it, and I just, a few strains of it just, you know. I went to see a Western guru lady by the name of Shanti Mai down in Malibu, you know, many years ago. And it was a weekend, and it had to do with the transmission of the Lankavatara Sutra, and which basically a bunch of Buddhists came together in Sri Lanka and decided they were going to try and agree on the truth. But anyway, beside that, somebody was late that she wanted to be there from the beginning, so we filled up the time doing the Gayatri mantra. And at the end, you know, we did it for about 45 minutes, and I had to read it, and then I finally memorized it and was able to do it. And the guy showed up, and she just says, okay, now send that energy out to someone who really needs it. And I just started gushing, you know, just gushing. I was thinking of my mother who was in pain, and I was thinking of a girlfriend I had who was just seemed to not be able to not make herself miserable.